You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And naturally, we're your hosts for the show. It's Monday night. It's Star Wars. You know, it's funny. I'm going to open the show right now by talking about two polls in particular that we put up. One, of course, pertains to the show tonight. The other one's just sort of like a programming note. So you guys have been somewhat busy on these polls, which we appreciate, by the way. So one of the ones that I put out there was, okay, most of you guys thought that us doing a pre-recorded show and then a live show every week would be a good balance. Okay, so that was fine. But the question is, which day do we make live? Which day do we make pre-recorded? You're overwhelming. I mean, overwhelming is pre-recorded Monday, live Friday. So, I don't know exactly when we're going to start doing that, but pretty soon our Monday shows will be pre-recorded. Now, understand that even though they're going to be pre-recorded, we'll still be able to interact with each other. We're still going to set it as a premiere. We'll still chat. You guys could still chat. So in that sense, it'll mimic the show. But of course, the nice thing about that is that even though we love interacting with the community, some people did say, well, you know, it would be nice to just get like you guys' thoughts just basically uninterrupted. So we thought, well, this would be a good way to pretty much satisfy the audience. Now, the one that pertains to today's show, and let me see if I can... Yeah, it's not letting me put a link in it. But if you go to our community tab, you take our poll really quick. Of the shows that are going to basically premiere this year, we asked you which one are you guys looking the most forward to. And we basically put up Visions Volume 3, Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte, and Bad Batch Season 3. There's others, but those are the big ones that we put up for a vote, which I wanted to do before we got into the show because as we go over this stuff, I really wanted to see what you guys were looking forward to so we can incorporate that into the show today. Overwhelmingly, at 56%, most of you guys want to see The Bad Batch Season 3. And then, of course, we'll give our answers as well. 22% want to see The Acolyte, 11% each for Skeleton Crew and Visions Season 3. I know Visions is probably the one that you're the most looking forward to.
Yes.
I
overjoyed.
Yeah, right, exactly. But, you know, I bring this up because, again, there are a lot of shows coming out in 2024. And, of course, you know, those are probably the ones we're going to start out with. But there's... was Tales of the Jedi one of them? Isn't that one that's coming out, too?
Yep.
That's season 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, there's like other ones, and we'll cover it. Do you have the list handy?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Perfect. Then we'll let you, because I don't have it handy right now. But we'll let you drive the show. So, we'll give our results on what we're looking the most forward to at the end of this. But why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Where are we going to start out with first? Which show?
All right, we can start first show.
I mean, I guess we could. Is this chronological or is this just?
No, I don't believe.
Well, I don't either because I think
because Acolyte is because Bad Batch is coming up
right in February. I think
basically February.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're starting out with the Acolyte
then. So Acolyte. Once again, for those who are armed, it's basically going to take place for the end of the High Republic era, which is 200 years before the Phantom Menace, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
No, I'm
200
sorry, 100
years before the prequel.
No, it's 100 years.
Well, but
I'm looking at it as.
Well, yeah, but here's what's weird. I'm looking at a different one where it says set during the High Republic era, which is 200 years before the prequels. You have to remember the show is taking place 100. Yeah, the whole era is 200. The show, though, is taking place, if I remember correctly, toward the end of the High Republic era. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's the end of so that's roughly around 100 years before the Phantom Menace is and it's basically showing how the Sith infiltrated the Jedi Order and will be told from the perspective of dark side users. Um, it's described as a mystery thriller in which a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they could ever anticipate. Through character detail, those details are scarce at the moment. We understand that Steinberg is playing the Jedi and Lee Jung Jae is playing their former Jedi Master. The first season will run for about 8 episodes, but more have been planned. There's no official release date for it, but we do come out before the summer. So that is the Acolyte.
Yeah, well, and
That's
the
the
Acolyte,
drop. I guess I said the Acolyte.
right? Well, the cool thing about the Acolyte is the fact that, first of all, once again, this is something that we haven't seen before. We have not seen anything from a more Sith perspective before. This is the first time that we're looking at dark side training, and not only that, when you take a look at the Sith perspective, but you're also seeing it in a pretty much a brand new era to us, right? Because this is the first time that the High Republic is going to be depicted visually. I mean, I guess you can count the comics as visual, but one of the things we'd always said is, look,
live action.
Yeah, live action, an animated series, something like that. And this is the first time that we're actually seeing something like that, which I think is fantastic. I think it's about time that we see something like that. Now, of course, it remains to be seen on whether or not they handle it well and it's any good, but so far, I don't know. There's also that leaked trailer, too, that they showed at Celebration, which I do find it odd that they never actually released it, that I know of.
Yeah, I don't think it's been released either. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really curious to see the whole dark side user thing. Like, okay, and the stories are kind of actually told from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious to see what that's going to be like, especially like the crimes that are going to be committed. And pretty much, from the Sith point of view, how did they really infiltrate the Jedi Order? That's an interesting concept as well, because we haven't really seen that until basically Anakin did it in Revenge of the Sith. He had just basically became a Sith, like right at the end. So no one even knew at that point that he was a Sith Lord. So
right.
That, and then just also seeing the furtherance of the differences between the Jedi Order that we all know versus what it was back then in the High Republic era. So that's going to be one of those shows that we're really going to, I'm in particularly really interested in, at least from a story perspective. Now, hopefully the execution, we all know that, Disney, take that how you want to, but at least story-wise, I think they've been doing somewhat of a decent job.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, look, a lot of times, and we crap on Disney too for a lot of the things that they do that's bad, and they do a lot of things that are where I think that the kindest you could be is call them missteps, right? I mean, they just, it's almost like for everything that they do right, they do 2 or 3 things wrong, and that's not good. You guys will have to excuse me here. I spilled a little bit of tea, kind of going all over the place. So I'm trying to contain this spill while I'm.
Don't you got some rumors you want to tell us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But so I'm trying to like save all the gear that's on this desk while I'm doing this. But pretty much, this is one of those things that I think that in terms of Disney handling this, they probably had the best shot at handling this well. Now, Leslie Headland has actually gotten some good reviews for her Russian Doll series, and, I haven't personally seen it. Other people that I know who've seen it have said it was really good. And she is a Star Wars fan. I mean, I know she's said some things that somewhat trigger the woke agenda a little bit, but for the most part, though, she does seem protective of the franchise. So I think this might actually be the best shot of something that's handled right, even though, again, I mean, I'm not counting things like the Bad Batch, things that have already been established. I'm not talking about, because obviously we're familiar with these things already. We know what's going on, right? But this is something that I think we're all looking forward to simply because of where it fits in the whole Star Wars franchise, in the universe, what characters we might see. Because again, this is at the end of the High Republic era, so we could end up seeing some High Republic Jedi that we've gotten. For those of you who have actually read the comics or read some of the novels or whatever, who knows? Maybe some of those people might pop up. We don't know. The other reason why maybe they're doing this toward the tail end is maybe they don't want to deal with some of the characters that they have dealt with. I know for a fact that in the novels, at least, you're actually getting, besides the individual phases, you're getting multiple storylines where you don't necessarily see too much of an overlap with characters. I mean, you might read, like, say, book 1 of a novel, and it'll feature a certain set of characters, and then you read, like, this totally different novel that's pretty much next chronologically as far as release, and it might even be a volume 2, but it deals with completely different characters because the High Republic is so vast. And so they may do that here with the Acolyte, where maybe they're not going to feature anybody that we've come to know and love, unless in a cameo situation. I don't know, but I do know that there's some hope for this series, I think.
Yeah, the High Republic, and I think it's cool because the High Republic takes place in an era one that is unfamiliar to all of us for the most part. Those of us who've been reading the novels and comics, we're getting some information, but we all, like Eric just said, it takes place 200 years before the events of Phantom Menace, which is a lot of ground. That's a whole lot of time. We think it's a lot of time. When we got 30 years between the end of Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens or something like that. Yeah. So think about it, like 200 years. That's quite a big chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time period, one, there's enough space where, like, okay, if you want to go backwards or forwards in between things, you have well more than enough space to actually do that and not affect necessarily anything that comes before it or comes after it. So we've been seeing Star Wars lately start to fill in the gaps in the known trilogies of the original, the prequels, where they're starting to, put stories in between those movies. And we were all, like, even myself, I was skeptical about Obi-Wan because it's like, oh, that's too close to A New Hope, and how they, this whole scene with he and Vader have this altercation, and then does that contradict what was said in A New Hope? And so you kind of have those concerns. However, I think that when you look at the High Republic, and we're looking at the Acolyte, it takes place in a space where you have enough time to really get into stuff without affecting too much of what comes before or after it. So I think that's a smart move.
Well, and that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to about this series. In fact, I would say, well, maybe not so much with something like the Bad Batch, but certainly Skeleton Crew, the Acolyte, you could start to now tell some stories and maybe move a little bit beyond the franchise and not necessarily mess with canon at this point. You can actually create some new characters, and that's not to say that there might not be familiar events. Something could be taking place, say, while the Death Star is flying around or whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter what's going on in the macro of the universe, because they could tell these very targeted micro type stories that are happening on some planet somewhere. And you could reference maybe how certain events of the franchise are affecting those particular characters at that particular time. But what's nice is it's not like doing the sequel trilogy where you're actually taking beloved characters and, you're doing some things. You could actually take a whole new set of characters, create new storylines, make Star Wars maybe feel a little bit more fresh. And if you want to set them against the backdrop of some more well-known event that happens during the franchise, you could do that too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So next we next skeleton.
Oh wait, you broke up there for a second. What do we got next?
Oh, Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Yeah, what's the release date on this? Have they said that yet?
No, it was supposed to come out late 2023, but
they swear it's coming out this year though.
Yeah, it's coming out in 2024. They still haven't given it us an exact date, but the series is not expected until a few more months from now. So maybe I'm guessing, maybe-ish. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Jude Law is the main star of this series, and it's funny because he pitched the idea to Jon Favreau on the set of a Marvel film, and so there's a bunch of different directors. Jake Schreier, Bryce Dallas Howard, Lee Isaac Chung, the Daniels, and David Lowery are set to helm episodes of the series. The story follows a group of kids who find themselves lost in the vastness of the galaxy, trying to find their way home. It takes place in the same timeline as The Mandalorian, and we've even been teased some cameos from some familiar faces. A brief teaser for the series was shown for the people in the room at Star Wars Celebration, but other than that, it's been pretty much radio silent for the last few months.
Yeah, it's another one, man. I mean, it's driving me nuts. It's like, I understand showing it to the people at Celebration first, but you're getting a little bit closer now, I think, to the release of these things, that they should at least be giving us something, a teaser, something to get us invested in it, right? Because this isn't like, oh, okay, we're about to release episode 10, to where there's a little bit of a thing, or like the Obi-Wan series or something. I mean, these are new projects that take place in new timelines or new parts of the universe or whatever the case may be. And so if you even want to, who cares about Jude Law's character in the Star Wars universe? I mean, we might care very deeply about it, right? I mean, this could end up being like one of our favorite characters ever, but we don't know that because we don't have anything that's basically given us any kind of a glimpse into this part of the universe and why we should care. And that's why I think they're making a big mistake with this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, in this day and age of information, certain things, like I said, like you said, Eric, I could see if it was, episode 10 or something like that, and you want to keep that close to the vest because you want the surprise in the theater and you want people to go out to the theaters to really go see it. But even then, we saw what happened with Solo when you don't promote well. Look what happened.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like,
exactly.
when you're late on the promotional tip, I mean, you need not to have to look past your own franchise to see what happens if you don't promote early enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that, particularly with something like Skeleton Crew, Acolyte at least has Sith Lords and, it's taking place toward the end of the High Republic. There's something you can hang your hat on. Whereas Skeleton Crew is almost like, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica meets like Stand By Me or something.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even really give you that because, see, at least with Acolyte, okay, when you read the depiction of Acolyte, you have, you got a Jedi, a Padawan who's seeking out her former master. They're trying to solve these crimes that have happened. The Sith have infiltrated the Jedi Order. Like, these are major things that are bullets that you can say, like, okay, this sounds interesting to me.
Right.
What do we get for Skeleton Crew? A bunch of kids floating around in space trying to find their way home.
Yeah, who cares?
So, And like
Basically, this is like the Star Wars version of a kid gets lost in a mall and he's looking for his parents. That's what this is telling me. And that's why I said it gives me Battlestar Galactica vibes because, obviously they were an Earth colony that is trying to find their way back. And I could, again, if you give me enough and you show me a really good trailer, then I might be able to get invested in it. And I understand in this day and age, too, you see this in both music and you also see this in movies and television where they basically start promoting the thing like a year and a half out. And by the time it actually gets there, you almost feel like you've seen it or you don't care about it. You're kind of burned out. I mean, I get it that they're trying to keep a little bit of mystery. And maybe another thing that they could do is you give us a teaser now. And this is assuming, like, when did you think that this thing was coming out?
Well, around May.
May, yeah, that makes sense. If it is around May,
they usually release something around like May the 4th. So
right. Usually there's like a February or January or February thing, then like a May thing, and then maybe like around August, September, something like that, and then like November. So that's usually the release schedule that they've been trying to follow anyway. So yes,
right.
You're correct in the sense of if this is a May type of a thing, then yeah, now would actually be the time to show us at least a teaser, right? Give us a teaser in February. Then maybe in March, you give us kind of like our first full trailer. And then in April, you could start to go a little bit crazier with, like TV spots or something like that. I mean, and then, obviously another full trailer. Now, Ted Adam Green has a comment. He says, I'm willing to give it all a chance that's new to get a glimpse into a corner of the Star Wars universe. Not every show needs to be part of. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you saw, because I don't know really when you hopped in tonight's show, but that was one of the things that we were talking about is that you don't necessarily need to have something be a part of something bigger. It's really more about giving us the context of whatever that project is. Because, like in the case of Skeleton Crew, I don't care right now. I don't. Who cares? A bunch of people are lost and they're trying to find their way home. Big deal. You got Jude Law. I mean, I'm encouraged by the fact that an actor of the caliber of Jude Law is involved in this, and in fact, it was his idea. So that gives me a little bit, but that has nothing to do with the story that has to do with the credibility of the actor. I mean, it's like, okay.
I mean, and quite frankly, I mean, look, we thought the same thing about Benicio del Toro playing in Star Wars, and and then now he's this stuttering idiot. It's just
we're all like, oh, dude, he's a Sith Lord, and he's this. I mean, this is true. We're been crime lords.
I'm like, come on, man, like. Nothing against people who stutter, but I'm just saying it's just
you might be taking some people down. But I mean, but no, it's a good point though, because again, that storyline that you're giving us is so generic and so vague. It's like I don't. I mean, other than the fact that yes, it probably does give us a little glimpse into another window of the Star Wars universe. Fine, but and as I said earlier, yeah. Jude Law's character might end up being one of my favorite characters of all time. The point is, I don't know. Nobody's given me anything.
And this is going to be the show that we love. We like, man, this is better than Andor. This is better.
Oh, dude,
like
we're going to be like my Darth Maul figure back here. It'll be replaced by the Jude Law character or something. Like I'll have posters of the thing all over the place. I got like the Skeleton Crew shirts.
Wallpaper on your phone. Yep.
Exactly.
It's on your phone.
Right? Oh,
it's like
Chad.
Like Cobra Kai all of a sudden.
Of course, I got Chad. Chad, your office must be ready if you're actually like listening to us. He says Star Wars reboot 2024. We actually did a show on should they reboot Star Wars. When was that?
You know what? That was a while ago. And
it was a while ago, but it was like, should they do it?
I was going to ask you something about that because once again, like I looked at that whole reimagining of that whole Obi-Wan Vader duel.
Yeah, man.
And this is kind of like, I mean,
see, I told you that was the thing that made me.
if they kept the story,
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, now with AI and the fact that James Earl Jones has given his blessing that we can use his voice now
Well,
forever.
you're right, because I don't know if when we actually did that show, I don't
Yeah,
know
that
if
hadn't
AI
happened yet.
had entered the conversation yet. Well, I mean, even
Mm-mm.
period, not just the James Earl Jones thing. I mean, we
Yeah.
might have said something about, well, if they do like resurrecting like a young Harrison Ford, but you're right, with an AI type of a thing, if it gets far enough, you could do that. But that was the point whenever we did that show. If you guys go back in our playlist, you could check it out. But that was one of the arguments that I made for it, is that, you had the prequels, which George had already worked out, like, okay, this is like lightsabers are not these big broadsword heavy things like he had told the original trilogy actors. He basically worked a lot of this stuff out. And the problem that I have is, as brilliant and as amazing as the original trilogy is, it sticks out like a sore thumb in light of the rest of the franchise. And that's purely because of he was making this up as he went along, and it just wasn't fully fleshed out yet. And so I think if he went back and he remade these things, not him per se, but if that was rebooted, you could fix a lot of plot holes. Because let's face it, there's a lot of plot holes that were created by them framing all this stuff around the original trilogy, which, that happens to virtually everything. I mean, if you start out with some source material and then you build around it, after a certain amount of years, you're going to be trapped in your own creations, basically. That happened with the expanded universe, too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it would just really be interesting, and it would kind of flow better because now you can have the technology
Exactly.
more or less to where all the movies look more so similar.
There's another,
as opposed to so vastly different.
Right. And that was, so the three arguments that I basically made, that was one. The plot hole thing was two. And then the third point that I made was that then, if you cast enough young actors and now you have Disney having the franchise and stuff like that, whether you use Alden Ehrenreich and all those guys, whether you do all that or not, maybe you use like completely different actors, let's say. It doesn't matter. The point is that you can have a younger cast and then you can go on and make, continuing adventures of a young Han, Luke, and Leia. And now you wouldn't have the problem where you have Alden Ehrenreich and Solo, Harrison Ford, and, in A New Hope, and then maybe Alden Ehrenreich again in something else, and then Harrison Ford again in the sequels. You could frame that. Now, Chad's giving us some helpful production advice. He says, off topic, you need to update the Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube logos. I actually thought about that because Twitter is now X, by the way, so they got a completely new logo. And just, it's another programming note, but since Chad was, well, either nice enough or snarky enough to bring it up, depending on how you want to look at things. The thing is that I am waiting now because I'm planning on redoing the look. Yeah, the look of, and this is even before we get into the basement studio and change it again. But even just the way that it is now, where, we're in different locations and we're in our little boxes and all that, I want to change things up a little bit. And so that's what I've been waiting for as far as updating the overlays that go along with it. But yes, that's on its way. In fact, you might even say, Chad's like, ooh, rebrand, love it. Yeah, man. Well, let's just say that there's more than just Star Wars stuff coming up in 2024. I mean, just so you guys know, one of the ideas, once we get the other studio built, it might be us and a couple of nice, chairs or whatever, sitting next to each other, just having a conversation. You guys have all seen podcasts that look like that. That's kind of a thing now, but it's cool because it's more of a conversation. And, obviously I just have to figure it out because nobody's really running to volunteer to do the switching and all that stuff for us. So it's like, I still have to try to do all the technical stuff as well as hosting it. So I'm trying to keep it, pretty much in-house. But yeah, we're working on a lot of really cool stuff for this year, by the way. So,
well, on that show, can one of our first guests be Cat Williams? I'm just
yeah, if we want hits, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Maybe he can
get Cat in there.
Oh, either that or we got to find a Star Wars equivalent, somebody that doesn't mind just talking, about everybody in the cast.
John Boyega.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Get John Boyega out here. Chad's like, just no black couch. Nah, we're not gonna do black couches.
Hey, no. Hey.
No offense to Daryl, of course.
Right.
Black co-host, but not black couch. That's fine.
Exactly. We have a quota to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're getting animated shows, and we don't have to spend particularly a whole lot of time because it's not really for most of our audience, but we have to make mention of it because technically it's
Are you talking about
released.
Visions?
No, actually, for once I'm not. But
it just sounded like that
Jedi
might be where
Adventures.
you're going. Oh yeah, you know what? Did you even see the first season of that?
No. That's not the Resistance. This is
No, I'm not even talking about Tales of the Jedi or Resistance or anything like that. I could have sworn there was already a Young Jedi Adventures that was released. I think what's coming out now is like another, unless I got the timeline. Because again, Lucasfilm has lied to us quite a bit, right? They'll say something's coming out, and you're right, because it's not something we would normally consume. I might have just assumed it was released.
From what I'm looking at, I can do a little digging here, just a moment.
But that's a beautiful part about us having computers, right?
Yeah,
we can actually look this stuff up. It's producing on the fly, guys, in real time, right before your naked, steaming eyes, as they like to say. But I would be interested to know because it's one of those shows that sounds like it might be kind of cool. And Resistance,
it's for preschoolers.
Well, that's it though. But Resistance, even though Resistance was
season.
made, okay, so it hasn't been released yet.
All right.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably not something that anybody, and I might check it out just to see if there's any canonical information in it, but I don't know.
No, wait. No, I'm mistaken. It said it was released in 2023. So, yeah. I'm sorry. The first piece of the last batch of episodes of Young Jedi, the High Republic era animated series aimed at preschool that has already released 19 of the 25 episodes in its first season.
Oh, yeah, I thought so. So they're basically coming out with more episodes, essentially.
Yeah, the final 6 will be available on Disney Plus at an uncertain time, once again in 2024.
Yeah, just, whenever. Whenever they feel like releasing it, basically.
We're bored. I guess we just drop Young Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what we got back there. Yeah, just drop that. Well, that's one of those things that, I don't know, I might, maybe. Because like I said, Resistance, even though Resistance was geared more towards younger kids, there was enough that you can actually enjoy in it. And there was also good canon information in it that it would be worth it. And that's another thing that we should note, too, is that also in 2024, I'm sure it's in the list that you got, but there's also a number of games that are coming out that are pretty big deals, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll talk about a few of those. But what else is listed there that you think that maybe nobody's really going to care about?
Well, that was it.
That was it?
Next
good.
one is what everybody cares about, and that's the Bad Batch Season 3.
Bad Batch Season 3. Yeah, if you guys missed it in our poll, everybody, like 56% of you, at least at the time, at the beginning of the show, you guys were all about the Bad Batch Season 3. And I can understand why, because out of nowhere, they seem to have resurrected Asajj Ventress. With hair.
Maybe they cloned her or something. Bad Batch,
it could,
so.
Right. It could either be a clone. Well, I was going to say maybe like a flashback or something, but I don't It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like she's actually back, and I'm really curious to see how they're going to accomplish this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we already saw the trailer for it, and that's what we're referencing when we're talking about Osai's Ventures coming back with hair. So those of you who have not seen the trailer, you definitely can go on YouTube and check that out.
And I guess I got to finish watching season 2. You did, I haven't, and then we should probably review it before we review the next batch. See what I did there?
I did.
I'm here all night, guys. Here all night. Wait, Ted Adam Green has a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Is season 3 before she dies in the book chronologically? I think so.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure yes, because she dies toward the end of the Clone Wars because Mace Windu was there, Quinlan Vos, which of course became her love interest. Like I said, Dark Disciple is hands down one of the best Star Wars books ever. She died in that book. That book was based on an unproduced Clone Wars episode. So that's the whole reason why everybody's a little shocked to see her in the Bad Batch Season 3, where it's well after Episode 3 at this point. So, yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, and so with Bad Batch Season, one of the things is that that this is the final.
Yes, the final season
of the show.
Yeah,
so this is a season finale, and
series
so everything up. Yeah, the series finale. Everything is wrapping up. So that's really going to be interesting to see how they're going to close out this show.
I wonder if it's going to bump up against A New Hope or even Rogue One.
Could possibly.
It's
possibly.
It's got to bump up against. Well, they may not depict it, but least, Solo.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess maybe Solo before Rogue One, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Solo actually takes place right around the time that Obi-Wan does. It's about 10 years in. So it's like, it's, because obviously the distance between episodes 3 and 4 is 19 years. Obi-Wan takes place about 10 years in. Solo's roughly around there, kind of in the middle point between the two. And the Bad Batch seems to be sort of bumping up against those. So I'm really curious on how far Bad Batch is going to go. And again, I mean, in the case of like an Obi-Wan or Solo thing, they may not necessarily, reference it or, oh, look, it's Han Solo, that kind of thing. But it would be interesting to see, though, if they start to get a little closer to Rogue One.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting because, Rogue One was a huge turning point in the saga, so to speak, because it's
Very
not technically part of the, it's part of the Star Wars saga, but it's not part of the trilogy.
Right.
But, but yeah, so after the season 2 cliffhanger, in which we lost Tech, which sucked because he was actually one of our favorites.
I know.
All of them really are pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some that I'm kind of like, whatever. I don't really
more. Yeah.
But yeah, Tech was. Yeah, Wrecker. I mean, okay, look, I'll put it like this. I started to get more endeared toward Wrecker in season 2. Like, I definitely think they improved his character and gave it some more depth in season 2. But, I don't know. There's some of them, it's like, whatever. Even Hunter's cool, and he started out being kind of my favorite at first.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, maybe it's a cliche thing. I don't know. It's one of those things that I thought Echo was really interesting. Tech was always my favorite. Tech was like hands down. I thought Crosshair actually. I like Crosshair in the sense of he actually was on the fringe even when he was still a good guy, and then when he became a bad guy, it was like, especially when he had that whole line like, No, that's not the chip. I took that out a long time ago. This is who I am. That was actually somewhat of a surprise to the audience as much as it was to the characters. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Omega, I like her too. She's cool.
We got to do like a series wrap up, like once this is all over, because now we can actually analyze like all the characters and everything like that. And
we got to review the rest of the episodes.
Well, that's true.
It's like, and we have to do it before season 3 comes out.
Well, they want to pre-record it Monday episode, so hey, there we go.
You might get a gang of them. Well, so the other thing too is when does it come out? Is it like February 26th or something? I want to say it's like in there. Does it say? Because I could have sworn it
was here. We just trailer for it, and that's really released it, but
let me see. Yeah, are you looking it up? Yeah, look up the Bad Batch season 3 release date. I would do it, but sometimes when I look stuff up, it's kind of like, because I'm actually running the whole show here, I got to get my separate. Yeah, I got to get my separate computer thing happening. That's all part of the changes in 24. It's the 21st. Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday. And it's also 3 episodes.
Yes, I remember that. They're doing 3 episodes to start it out. Does it say how many total episodes there are?
It doesn't, but if they're keeping up with the last 2 seasons, it's 16.
Yeah. So it's going to be quite a bit.
So,
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm really interested to see, once again, the growth of Omega and see if we get more in depth with her, how they're going to move on without Tech now. It seemed like Crosshair might be having second thoughts about some things. He may be rejoining the group, but then, it may be all be for naught because, we don't know. They may all die, and some last, because I know they got this one big battle that they're supposed to be making a stand in. So it could be a Rogue One situation.
Well, and I could see that with 16 episodes, depending, I think a lot of it's going to depend on during what time period, like where in the franchise the season 3 begin. Because, even that's irrelevant really, because they could time hop. They could do kind of what they're thinking of doing with Andor season 2. They could just be like, okay, there's like, I don't know, like 5 years between episodes or something. So, it wouldn't be that severe, obviously, with 16, but they could actually move things further along in time faster than maybe what they've done on previous seasons. We'll just have to see. It's anybody's guess, really. But yeah, that's another one. And again, we'll check the poll results towards the end of the show, where we'll also reveal what we're most looking forward to in 2024. But yeah, I want to see, what you guys are thinking. So if you haven't had a chance to take the poll yet, go ahead and take the poll now and put your vote in for of the 4 series that we listed. All right, what do we got next?
All right, so next on the animation front, we have what we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier, and that is Tales of the Jedi.
Season 2, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a show that we really kind of fell in love with because it was a short season. It was only like 8 episodes, maybe 6 or 8.
It might have even just been 6. I remember it was really short. It was too short. It was really short. Opinion. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah, I completely agree. However, it basically, told the isolated stories about, 2 characters from the prequels, which was Mace Windu and Ahsoka. And I really enjoyed it because it really kind of got a background into some things that we kind of always wanted to know, but never got a chance to really see. Like the relationship with Mace and Dooku was a big one.
Well, I was going to say,
when
Dooku was another one.
Side.
Yeah. Besides Mace and Ahsoka, I would say that Dooku was somebody we got a lot of backstory. We even got a backstory on Yaddle. Who saw that coming?
Yeah.
It's people barely even remember she was in the franchise. So that was pretty cool.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, and that like Yaddle, and then also had Ahsoka, where we actually saw, her when she was actually basically born, and how she became acquired, or how she was acquired by the Jedi. Um, and then we also got a chance to see, Dooku kind of go off the rails a little bit, and Mace kind of had to look at him a little like, all right, man,
Mm-hmm.
you're tiptoeing around some things that I'm not so sure about. And then, of course, you got Ahsoka. We kind of see her defending that little, I guess, colony of people or what have you, um, against Inquisitors and stuff like that. So that was really cool. We got the chance to see those characters, and I wonder, are we going to get more of those too, or are we going to get fresh people that they're going to kind of do an expose on?
Well, my
And
vote.
if they did do, which one? Well, let me ask you all, not just you, Eric, but everyone. Would you want to see more of Dooku and Ahsoka continued, or would you rather see two new characters kind of following the same model?
Well, for me, it all depends on how many episodes we're talking about. If you're going to give us another 6 to 8 episode series, then give me some different people. I don't, because otherwise it doesn't become Tales of the Jedi anymore. Otherwise, it's just like a Dooku, Mace, Ahsoka prequel.
True. True.
It's not.
Point.
You're not really. The idea is this is supposed to be an anthology, and it's supposed to pretty much fill in the gaps as far as the Jedi, where the films necessarily. Even something as vast as the Clone Wars, it couldn't focus on everybody in every little single aspect. Look at just in this first season, everything that we got from it. Particularly in that whole storyline between like Yaddle and Dooku and Mace and all that stuff. That was like seriously filling in the gaps between episodes 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. And there was a lot there. We even got to see a little bit more of the relationship between Sidious and Dooku. And
yeah, that's true.
And just sitting there going, wow, I don't know if Dooku really knew everything about his plan. We had always assumed that they were in it, but when you look at this Tales of the Jedi thing, you see very quickly, like, wow, I don't know if Dooku knows everything. I think he's being played just like everybody else. So, and look, if you want to give me more of that, I'm on board for it. If you want to make it like, Lion King 1.5, right, where you're basically giving me some of the stuff, but maybe from a different perspective, or maybe you're filling in, like it becomes episode 1.5 or 2.5 or whatever. You want to do that? I'm fine with that too, but I think that they really need to figure out exactly what they're trying to do with this thing.
Yeah, I think that the concept of it was really good. I think picking those characters, I think I would want to see like I think I would love to see some stuff like even they did with Qui-Gon and Dooku. I would love to see more like kind of what we got with that what was that story? The name escapes me.
Master and Apprentice.
Book Master and Apprentice. Yeah, that was cool. So I would love to actually see those interactions, like when Dooku's actually trying to show Qui-Gon about the whole prophecy, and what made Qui-Gon some more of a renegade. I think that would be a character I would love to see more of. Kit Fisto or Plo Koon is another character that I would love to see more of. Just because I always thought he was cool, and we got a chance to see him interact a lot with Ahsoka, and just the way he kind of taught her. He kind of allowed her to kind of run off the leash a little bit, but not too far. He still kind of provided that discipline. So yeah, those are probably the two that I would want to see if they.
Well, and I'll throw 3 other names in the ring, and the current generation will love it because they're all female. So, give me some more Barisafi, give me some more Shakti. And here's one that people might sleep on is Jocasta Nu. Because once we actually saw her in the comics dueling Vader and learning a little bit more about her backstory, and she's not just some snarky librarian, she's actually kind of a warrior chick that's formidable, that would be interesting too. So there's a plethora of like different characters that they could explore and maybe give a little bit of backstory. At the same time, along with the backstory part of it, you can be plugging them in like you did with season 1. So, like, for instance, we got a little bit more information on Yaddle, but we also found out where she was fitting into the greater storyline. So, I mean, the prequel trilogy. So, things like that I think would be actually pretty cool.
All right. Next, we're on to the video game.
Oh, the video games. Yeah, what's the big one that's coming out?
So we have Star Wars Outlaws.
Outlaws, that was it. Yeah, Outlaws is a big one. That's like the open world one.
Yeah, so it's an open world AAA console game set between Empire and Return of the Jedi during a time in which the rebellion was at its lowest and the Empire allowed bounty hunters to run more freely than ever. The main protagonist is Kay Vess, a gun for hire who, as story unfolds, will work for several crime syndicates to get herself into a lot of trouble. So a female bounty hunter.
That's cool.
Once again,
Yep, people like that. People like that.
Yes. Players will have the opportunity to take on missions for those organizations, including Jabba the Hutt himself, and even betray them. They will make their own path, even though a team behind it has already confirmed it will not take hundreds of hours to finish, and the ending of the story will be the same for everyone. How they will accomplish it is still unknown.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm in love with that, but because I mean that's where it starts to come. But I can understand the necessity of it, though. Let's put it like that. I get why they're doing it, but yeah, Outlaw is something that is one of the games that has gotten a lot of buzz and a lot of people are looking forward to it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there might have been like a game trailer released to it too, or maybe like some sort of playthrough or something. Yeah, and I remember it looked promising. I mean, it looked like it because look, everybody loved Knights of the Old Republic, and the reason why people liked it was because, I mean, it wasn't as open world as, say, the Elder Scrolls stuff like Oblivion or Skyrim or something like that. But at the same time, it was open world enough that it did scratch that itch in the Star Wars universe. It had a lot of really compelling characters. It gave us a lot of different lore and new canonical stuff. And then it also, depending on what you did, you could change the outcome. I mean, obviously, it doesn't have infinite combinations, but there are different elements that happen just by how you play the game and, your interaction with the other characters and so forth. And I think that's really what Star Wars fans really want. The Star Wars gamers, anyway. Even though you do have other more like first-person shooter type things like the whole Jedi Fallen Order and sequel to it that just came out. It's like I blanked. If Chad's still watching, he's playing it. He might be playing it. Yeah. Oh yeah. He loves it too. Which I can understand why. I mean, the graphics on that thing are insane. Like, I thought Fallen Order was good. Man, what's the sequel called? It's gonna bother me now. Yeah, look up sequel to
Jedi Survivor?
Survivor, yes. Jedi Survivor, that was it. It was like right there. I'm like, I can't believe I can't remember this. That game is insane. It's a little bit, like I said, a little bit more first-person shooter, traditional action style game, but it's really cool. And I mean, and much like Fallen Order, it does, like some of the cutscenes and stuff like that actually does give you more canon. So if you play through it and stuff, you're basically rewarded with an enriching experience. Let's put it like that. But it's also a fantastic game that even non-Star Wars fans or casual Star Wars fans are playing. So that one,
Okay.
Outlaws, of course, coming up. Is there any other games released this year? I'm sure there is.
Yeah, Dark Forces, the remake of the '95 Star Wars shooter Dark Forces, will be
Yes.
released on PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch on February 28th.
Oh, so it's coming up pretty quick then.
Mm-hmm.
That it?
And then finally, we have Star Wars Hunters. It's a mobile and Nintendo Switch game announced back in 21 to be coming out later this year. It's a combat arena style game set after the fall of the Empire, where players can fight as bounty hunters, rebel heroes, or stormtroopers. It has a soft launch in select territories, but worldwide release has been pushed back multiple times. So hopefully 2024 will be the year that it finally
Yeah, I
is
was going to say,
released.
hopefully it's not pushed back any further. The other
Yep.
game, what was it now? I mean, there was Force Unleashed. Everybody loved that. It was that Oculus game. Was it called like Vader Unleashed or something like that?
Oh, Vader. Yeah, the one I remember that one.
Yeah, it was
Oculus.
Yeah, it was made specifically for Oculus. I remember it was the game that almost made me buy an Oculus.
Well, yeah, I think wasn't it originally like the game you play at Disney World or something like that?
Yeah, it was something. Well, it was either ported from that or it was influenced.
Like they made a home version. Yeah, almost like a home version of that.
I mean, But I'll tell you, man, Jedi Survivor will definitely scratch that itch if you don't want to go out and buy an Oculus. Plus, don't forget that PlayStation has VR, so you can play like a VR. I'm sure you can play a VR version of it, or you can do that, where it'll kind of give you that pseudo VR experience. But even just playing it on a flat screen, I mean, it gave you that vibe. But yeah, that game was something that almost made me get an Oculus, and I was really hoping that maybe they would come out with some sort of a sequel to it or something. But no, maybe coming in 2025, right?
Right.
Anything else? That was it for the gaming world, right?
Yeah, that's it, man.
I noticed, though, that you skipped over Vision Season 3.
They didn't mention it, neither did I. So there you go.
Well, that's supposedly coming out.
That was pushed back, or maybe they got rid of it,
You
highly
wish.
doubt it. I know.
Yeah,
I can only hope.
There's no way in the world that would happen. I mean, I won't say it can't happen. But so let's see. May 4th.
Great.
That's what they're thinking, but there's no actual confirmation. Oh, wait. This is cheesy. They say this is totally like what weathermen and stuff do, where it's like, it could be anywhere between like 40 and 80 tomorrow. We don't know.
Right.
So they're very non-committal. It could arrive between May 4th and December 31st. I am not kidding. That's the window that it gives.
Oh, I believe it.
I mean, it's like, that. I could have told you that. I mean, if you just tell me that it's coming out in 2024, I could just say that. Well,
somewhere between January 4th and December 31st.
Yeah, there you go. Somewhere between January 1st and December 31st. But I thought that I read other sources that basically was putting it a little bit more in May. And if I remember correctly, the last 2 seasons came out around May.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to look at that, because I mean, obviously you're really looking forward to it.
Yes. Chomping at the bit.
Chomping at the bit. Can't wait. But it was added for the projects coming in 2024 then, or were there any other honorable mentions or like maybes or any of that stuff? Anything else?
No, I think that's just pretty much wraps up, the everything that we can look forward to seeing or playing, and
Well, and that we
I
know
mean,
of. Well, there's
yeah, we
also
know of, like I said.
look, there was some other things that I had originally, because remember, this show was actually postponed like 2 or 3 times, right? Because of illness, work schedules, all that. When I originally did it, there was also a list of comics and novels that I had for this show. But the thing is, the problem is that the publishing dates and all this stuff was a little bit sketchy. So I really didn't want to start mentioning a bunch of stuff that could either be pushed back or maybe canceled or whatever. But I will tell you
Right.
this. There's a lot of High Republic stuff coming. Like Phase 3 now is
phase
coming.
2. Yeah, Phase 3 of the High Republic, and that Mace Windu Glass Abyss book is out. That novel's out.
Right. So there's some, the comics and the novels are going to have some healthy showings in 2024 as well. And of course, as time goes on and notable things are released, we'll obviously cover that here and let you guys know. And same thing with everything else. Look, we're just like you guys in this sense. We don't have any inside knowledge of all this stuff. We're just doing what you do. We're reading this stuff and saying, all right, that's what Lucasfilm is saying right now. Obviously, all that stuff could change in the coming months. But either way, we'll keep you posted on it and we'll update you. And of course, as these projects come out, we'll be reviewing them. So there'll actually be like a section. You can go right now. We got The Mandalorian. We got Tales of the Jedi. We got The Bad Batch. We got Visions. Ahsoka. Mandalorian. Pretty much every show that's been released. Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett. There's playlists, and you could see our reviews of every episode. Well, still got to do Bad Batch Season 2, the rest of that. But that's coming up too, along with Bad Batch Season 3. So we're gonna actually have quite a bit of stuff for you guys coming up this year, contingent, of course, upon Lucasfilm actually releasing it. But either way, we'll keep you guys updated as far as any changes, anything that's definitive. As some trailers come out, we'll actually start reacting to those. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, now, before we close out, we have to give what we are looking most forward to. So I'll just serve that right over to you right now. What are you most looking forward to seeing in 2024?
I
think I already
the big
know
shows
the
I'm
answer.
looking Acolyte, of course, and Acolyte, Bad Batch Season 3, and Tales of the Jedi.
All equally? Is there any one of those that maybe inches above the others?
It's hard to say.
It is.
Because on one hand,
we're asking our audience to do it. So we
I know, man, but it's like, okay, so here's the deal. 2 of the programs, I kind of already know what I'm going to get in principle. Bad Batch, I know what I'm getting. Tales of the Jedi, I know what I'm getting for the most part. And I don't think that we're going to miss with those. However, the Acolyte is something brand new and very interesting and compelling. I just don't want the execution to suck. So it's like, I don't want to have to go into with this Ahsoka, hype, and it lets me down. But if I had to, if I'm being honest, that will be the one that has me the most excited for its in anticipation for this upcoming year.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically going the same as you as far as like what my top 3, let's say, would be. But if I have to choose one, I'm gonna say it's probably the Acolyte, simply because the time period that it's in, the focus on the Sith versus focusing on the Jedi. There's a little bit of an Indiana Jones vibe to this, which makes me wonder. I guess it's a little bit early for Dr. Aphra to show up, but it could give us some of those type of vibes though. And then also just the look of it and just seeing what's going on. Now, I will admit that it also, based on everything that you just said, it also has the greatest chance of failure because, like you said, we kind of know what we're getting already with the Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi. You know, it's, I mean, even if you wanted to throw something like, let's just say that you were really looking forward to Visions. You know, let's really go into an alternate universe here. Let's say you said, my number one thing is Visions. I can't wait for it. You even know what you're, even though that's more anthology and that's based on whatever animation studios, you still have some parameters. Like you kind of know what you're getting. Granted, there's a lot of wiggle room in there because, I mean, let's face it, there's probably the most variety in that particular show. But you still know what you're getting. With The Acolyte, we don't really know what we're getting. Now, Ted, he's giving us like all this stuff, like kind of a top 4. But of course, his number 1 is The Bad Batch. So that makes sense. I can understand that. Number 2, Tales of the Jedi. Number 3, The Acolyte. 4, Visions actually ties with Skeleton Crew. So, and I can understand that, by the way, because, like I said, it's really hard for me to get excited about Skeleton Crew. Because number 1, based on just a plot and everything, I don't care. You know, it's like I'm not vested. I mean, it's not like with something like Andor, right, where there's a character that we know and we're just seeing him in a new setting. We don't know anything about anybody in that show. And it's all based on the credibility of the actor. You know, I mentioned like kind of a Stand By Me meets Battlestar Galactica. It could also be Super 8. Remember that movie? It was kind of the same type of deal, right? Bunch of kids. You know, of course, they're discovering aliens or whatever. But I mean, it's kind of the same type of vibe to me. At least as far as... And I loved the Super 8 movie. I thought it was a great movie. So we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise us. You know, maybe Skeleton Crew will be like, oh man, this is like the best show that, you know, they've ever released. Or maybe not. But the point is, you guys stick with us. Join our community. Hit us up on our Discord. Access our now outdated logos for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, Chad. And then, of course, you know, hit the like and subscribe button so you guys are always up on when we're releasing new videos and everything, especially because there's a lot of these shows that we're going to be reviewing. So if you guys just stick with us, join our community, then we can keep track of all this stuff together. We can figure out, you know, what are we looking forward to? And, okay, this show came out. Was it good? Was it not good? You know, we want to hear from you guys. So, again, leave your comment in the comment section if you want to give us a little bit of a description of what you're looking forward to. Otherwise, just take the poll that we put up. You know, we put up a poll, probably the 4 big shows that are coming out. Let us know what you're looking forward to, and let's just say that there's something coming out in 2024 that's not reflected in the poll. Then you can leave the comment in the comment section and let us know why we messed up by not including it in the poll. Everybody loves to do that, right? All right, Friday. I don't think we actually have anything set for Friday yet, do we?
I thought we did.
Do we?
Let me go back into our notes.
Yeah, I mean, I've sent you stuff. I don't know. This is always fun, producing on the fly, everybody. This is what we do. And hey, you know, while he's looking that up, if you guys do have a topic or something that you'd like covered, or you want to talk about something, you know, let us know. We've done that. We've actually taken you guys' comments or whatever and turned them into shows. I remember the last show that we did this past Friday, our top 5 female characters, which if you guys missed that show, you can always go back and check it out. That was something Daryl just happened to mention just kind of out of the blue during a previous show. And he, you know, it was just kind of like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should talk about our 5 favorite characters. I'm like, you know what? That's good. That's our next show. Of course, due to illness and work schedules and things like that, that ended up taking a while, but you know how it goes. Well, either way, check us out on Friday. We'll be live at 11, and we'll talk some more Star Wars. All right? So thanks for joining us, guys. With that, I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the force be with you, always.